I'm Cal, a trucker with over 20 years behind the wheel, born into the life with diesel in my veins. I've hauled everything from cattle to car parts, across every back road and interstate in the country. I've seen weird, fog that moves against the wind, hitchhikers who vanish when you look twice, rest stops where the lights hum like they're alive. But nothing, not one damn thing, compares to what I ran into on a lonesome Kentucky back road one night last fall. Something that makes me stick to the main roads now, no matter how bad the traffic gets. It was 2 a.m., and I was hauling farm equipment from Louisville to Knoxville. I-64 was a parking lot. Construction, jackknife trailer, who knows? So I got fed up and took a side road off the highway, a narrow strip of asphalt that dipped into a silent wood. The sign read Old Mill Road, faded and leaning like it hadn't been touched in years. My rig's headlights cut through the pitch black, but the forest was dead. No owls, no crickets, just a heavy silence that pressed against the cab like a weight. I shut off my GPS. Didn't need it. I've driven roads like this my whole life. Instinct's always been enough. The trees closed in, their branches clawing at the sky, and the road narrowed until it was barely wide enough for my rig. I kept my speed steady, the engine's growl my only company. But something felt wrong. The air in the cab was thick, like I was breathing through a wet cloth, and the smell of damp leaves and rot seeped in, even with the windows up. Why was the forest so quiet, and what was that smell? I pressed on, mile after mile, but the road didn't change. No signs, no houses, just endless trees swallowing the light. My CB radio, usually crackling with chatter, was dead silent, not even static. Then I saw it, movement in the woods, just at the edge of my headlights. Shapes, faint and blurry, darting between the trees. Too tall to be deer, too fast to be human. My neck prickled, the hairs standing straight up. I gripped the wheel tighter, telling myself it was just shadows, just the night playing tricks. But the shapes kept pace, flickering in and out of the light, like they were following me. I turned up the radio, hoping for music, anything to break the silence. Nothing but a low hum, deep and steady, vibrating in my chest. It wasn't coming from the radio. It was coming from the road itself, like the ground was alive. I slowed down, my eyes scanning the woods, but the shapes were gone. Just darkness, just silence. What was moving out there, and why did it feel like it was watching me? Then out of nowhere, construction signs appeared. Orange cones scattered across the road, their reflective tape glinting in my headlights. They were old, faded, some tipped over like they'd been abandoned for years. No workers, no equipment, just cones blocking half the lane. I eased off the gas, confused. There'd been no warning, no detour signs on I-64. My headlights swept the road, and that's when I saw them. Brake lights, red and glowing, hovering in the air just ahead. No car, no truck, just 2 points of light, glaring at me through empty space. My foot slammed the brakes, the trailer screeching behind me. My heart pounded, my breath fogging the windshield despite the heater. I leaned forward, squinting. The lights didn't move, didn't flicker, just hung there, like eyes staring back. I flashed my high beams, expecting to see a vehicle, but there was nothing. Just the lights, burning red in the dark. What were those lights, and why were they floating in the middle of the road? I threw the rig into reverse, the engine roaring as I backed up, tires grinding against the asphalt. The brake lights didn't follow, but the hum grew louder, shaking the cab, rattling my teeth. I glanced in the side mirrors, and my blood ran cold. The shapes were back, closer now, standing just beyond the tree line, their outlines tall and wrong, like stretched shadows with no source. They didn't move, just watched, their forms flickering like bad film. I spun the wheel, aiming for the highway, but the road seemed to stretch, the trees closing in tighter, the cones multiplying until they lined both sides like sentinels. My headlights caught something else, a single glove, black leather, lying in the middle of the road, crusted with frost despite the warm September night. I didn't stop to look closer. I floored it, the rig lurching forward, swerving around the cones, the glove vanishing under my tires. Why was there a frozen glove on a warm road, and what did those shapes want? The road twisted, narrower now, the trees scraping the sides of the trailer, their branches snapping like bones. The hum was deafening, a pulse that matched my heartbeat, and the brake lights appeared again, closer this time, hovering just ahead. I slammed on the horn, a desperate blast, but the sound was swallowed, like the forest ate it. My CB crackled to life, unprompted, spitting a voice, not human, too deep, too slow. Stay, on, the road. My name came next, Cal. It knew my name. My hand shook, the wheel slipping in my grip. I didn't answer, didn't dare. I pushed the rig harder, the engine screaming, the brake lights growing brighter, closer, until they filled the windshield, red and blinding. Then, just as suddenly, they vanished. The road opened up, the trees pulling back, and I was back on I-64, the highway's yellow line steady under my tires. How did I get back to the highway, and what was that voice? I didn't stop until I hit a truck stop outside Lexington, the neon sign buzzing like a lifeline. The lot was full of rigs, the diner packed with drivers, their voices loud and real. I stumbled inside, my hands still trembling, and ordered coffee, black, to steady my nerves. The waitress, a woman with graying hair and a name tag reading June, noticed my face. "You look like you've seen the devil," she said, half joking. "You ever hear anything about Old Mill Road?" I asked, my voice low. Her smile faded. She leaned in, her voice barely a whisper. "You didn't take it, did you? That road. It's not right. Drivers who go down it don't always come back." She slid a napkin across the counter, a single word scrawled in shaky pen. "Don't." What did June know about that road, and why wouldn't she say more? I couldn't shake it. A week later, I was at a bar in Knoxville, swapping stories with other drivers. I mentioned Old Mill Road, the cones, the lights. Most laughed, called it a ghost story, but an old-timer, his eyes cloudy with cataracts, didn't. "You saw the lights," he said, his voice rough. "They've been out there since the 70s. Construction crew went missing on that road, working a night shift. No bodies, no equipment, just their cones left behind. Drivers say the road keeps them, pulls you in if you stray too far." "What do they want?" I asked, my throat tight. He didn't answer, just pointed to a photo on the wall, a grainy shot of a construction site, orange cones scattered, dated 1974. In the background, barely visible, were shapes, tall, thin, standing in the trees, their outlines wrong. And in the foreground, a single black glove, crusted with frost. Were those shapes the crew, or something else entirely? I don't take side roads anymore. I stick to the interstates, no matter how bad the traffic. But the hum follows me. At night, when I'm parked, I hear it, low, steady, vibrating in my chest. The smell of damp leaves and rot lingers, creeping into the cab, even with the windows sealed. Last week, I found something under my seat. A black leather glove, stiff with frost, identical to the one I'd run over. I burned it in a rest stop fire pit, watched it curl and blacken, but the smell didn't go away. Last night, my CB crackled, though I hadn't touched it in months. That voice, slow and deep, filled the cab. "Cal, stay on the road." I smashed the radio, but the hum didn't stop. It's in my head now, that voice, those lights, those shapes. I don't know what's out there on Old Mill Road. I don't know if it's a curse, a trap, or something older, something hungrier. but I know it's waiting, and I know I'll never stray from the highway again. Will I ever escape the pull of Old Mill Road? If this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You never know what's coming next. I'm Frank, a trucker with 25 years of rubber on the road, hauling freight through every corner of the central U.S. I've seen my share of strangeness. Headlights that flicker like they're winking, CB chatter that cuts off mid-sentence, shadows that move when they shouldn't. Nothing ever got under my skin. I'm a practical guy. Keep the wheels turning, make the delivery, get paid. But last spring, on a lonesome stretch of farmland in central Illinois, something found me. Something I can't explain, something I can't forget. It was just past midnight, and I was hauling a load of grain from Des Moines to Indianapolis. Route 24 was quiet, cutting through endless fields of corn and soybeans. The kind of place where the horizon swallows the sky. The moon was low, casting a pale glow over the stalks, and the air was thick with the sweet rot of harvest season. My rig's headlights carved a tunnel through the dark, the only sound the steady rumble of the engine and the faint hum of country on the radio. Then I saw him. A kid, maybe 12 or 13, standing on the shoulder, lit up by my high beams. He wore an oversized suit, old-fashioned, dirty, like it had been dragged through a ditch. His mouth hung open, his face blank, eyes wide and empty, staring straight ahead. No thumb out, no wave, just standing there, motionless, like a scarecrow come to life. My gut twisted. Kids don't stand on highways at midnight, especially not dressed like that. I slowed down, thinking to check on him, but something told me to keep going, so I did. Why was a kid out here, alone, in a suit that didn't fit? A few miles later, maybe 5, I saw him again. Same kid, same dirty suit, same empty stare, standing on the shoulder like he'd been waiting for me. My heart skipped. I'd been driving 60 miles per hour. No way he could have gotten ahead of me. Not on foot, not through those fields. I gripped the wheel, my palms sweaty, and checked the odometer. 5 miles exactly. I glanced in the side mirror as I passed, expecting to see him fade into the dark. He didn't move, just stood there, mouth agape, eyes locked on my rig. I turned off the radio, the silence heavy now, pressing against the cab. The air smelled wrong, faint at first, like rotting fruit, seeping through the vents. I told myself it was my imagination, that I was tired, that the kid was just a coincidence. Maybe twins, maybe a prank, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. The road stretched on, the cornfields endless, and I kept driving, my eyes darting to the mirrors, half expecting to see him again. How did that kid get ahead of me, and why did he look the same? 10 miles later, just as I started to relax, he was there again. This time he wasn't on the shoulder. He stood in the middle of the road, right on the yellow dividing line, his oversized suit hanging off him like a shroud. His face wasn't blank anymore. It was angry, his mouth twisted into a snarl, his eyes burning into me. My headlights lit him up, his shadow stretching long and thin across the asphalt. I slammed on the brakes, the trailer groaning, the rig fishtailing as I swerved to avoid him. The wheel fought me, sluggish, like the truck didn't want to move. I glanced in the side mirror, my heart pounding. Nothing, just empty road, the yellow line clean and unbroken. No kid, no suit, no sign he'd ever been there. My breath fogged the windshield, though the heater was on full blast. The rotten smell was stronger now, thick and cloying, like something dead left out in the sun. I floored it, the rig lurching forward, the fields blurring past. I just needed to get to the truck stop, to lights, to people. Was that kid real, or was I losing my mind? I pulled into a truck stop outside Peoria an hour later, my hands still trembling. The neon sign flickered, spelling open in buzzing red, and the lot was half full of rigs, their engines idling like a low hum. I stumbled into the diner, the smell of grease and coffee a lifeline. The waitress, a woman with tired eyes and a name tag reading Marge, poured me a cup without asking. I must have looked like hell because she raised an eyebrow. "Rough night, hun?" "You ever hear about a kid on Route 24? I said, my voice low. "Young, in a big suit, standing out there at night?" Her face didn't change, but her hand paused on the coffee pot. "Ain't heard nothing like that around here," she said too quick, her eyes darting to the window. She slid a napkin across the counter, a single word scratched in pen. "Don't." I stared at it, my stomach twisting. She walked away before I could ask more. Why did Marge lie, and what was she afraid of? I climbed back into my rig, too wired to sleep but too shaken to keep driving. I locked the doors, checked the mirrors, and crawled into the sleeper. The cab was warm, the hum of the truck stop grounding me. I told myself it was over, just a trick of the night, maybe exhaustion from too many long hauls. I closed my eyes, willing my heart to slow. Then it came, a sharp tap at the sleeper window. Tap, tap, tap. My eyes snapped open. The rotten smell flooded the cab, so thick I gagged. I grabbed my flashlight, my hands shaking, and aimed it at the window. Nothing. Just the dark, the lot, the other rigs. But the tapping didn't stop, slow and deliberate, like someone was right outside. I held my breath, listening, and then I heard it. A low whisper, barely audible. "Frank." My name hissed through the glass. Who was tapping, and how did they know my name? I didn't look. I didn't move. I sat there, frozen, until dawn broke, the first light chasing the smell away. The tapping stopped, the cab warm again, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I checked the mirrors before I left. Nothing but asphalt and diesel fumes. I hit the road, finished the delivery, and swore I'd never take Route 24 again. But the memory of that kid, his angry face, his empty eyes, stuck with me. A month later, I was at a bar in Indianapolis, swapping stories with other drivers. I mentioned the kid, the suit, the yellow line. Most laughed, called it a ghost story, but an old-timer. His face weathered like old leather. "Didn't. You saw him," he said, his voice low. "The kid in the suit. What do you know about him?" I asked, my throat dry. He leaned in, eyes glinting. Been stories since the 60s. A boy, maybe 12, died out there on Route 24. Farm accident, they said, but the details never added up. Body was never found. Just his suit, torn and dirty, left in a ditch. Drivers see him sometimes, always at night, always on that stretch. They say he's looking for something, or someone. "What does he want?" I said, my voice barely a whisper. The old-timer didn't answer, just pointed to a photo on the wall. A faded Polaroid of a cornfield, dated 1963. In the corner, barely visible, was a figure in an oversized suit, standing in the stalks, his face blurred but his mouth open, like he was screaming. And on the ground beside him, a single black glove, crusted with frost. Was that kid still out there? And why was he angry with me? I don't drive Route 24 anymore. I stick to the interstates, take the long way, even if it costs me time. But the smell follows me. At night, when I'm parked, I catch it. Rotten, sweet, creeping into the cab. The tapping comes too, faint but steady, like knuckles on glass. Last week, I found something under my bunk. A black leather glove stiff with frost, though it was 70 degrees outside. I burned it in a rest stop fire pit, watched it curl and blacken, but the smell didn't go away. Last night, my CB crackled, though I hadn't touched it in months. A voice, young but wrong, filled the cab. "Frank, stay on the road." I ripped the plug out, but the whisper didn't stop. It's in my head now. That kid, his face, his suit. I don't know what he is, a ghost, an omen, or something worse, but I know he's waiting. And I know I'll see him again if I ever stray onto that road. Will I ever escape the kid in the suit? If this story gave you chills, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You never know what's coming next.